And Julie, there's loads of people here who all shapes and sizes, all different timings in terms of their journey. So if we can start by going right back, I suppose, to where you were before we met and also the struggles that you had, that'd be a great start.
Yeah, happy to, Alex. Because I'll be really quite frank, I thought this program wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Um, so where I was pre my issues. I was very much a grab life by the sort of the throat type of person. I'm an adventurer in my spare time. I've done lots of crazy things. I've never been on a diet. Never had a problem with my weight. If I crept a few pounds on here and there, a couple of weeks and I'd be back to where I started. Never really, my weight was never really an issue for me at all. And then along came the menopause. Don't we just love it? And I just found it was just creeping on. And I'm talking about, a pound here, a pound there. And before I knew it, probably about a stone and a half. Now, a lot of people, and hearing some of the stories, I mean, 9 stones, that's more than I weigh now, is just incredible. And that's why I thought, well, I've not really got a problem here. This is something I can sort. I'm not somebody I'm quite an independent person. I'm used to giving out advice rather than sort of taking advice. But I was becoming really miserable. And, I was finding my clothes were tighter. I was actually losing my own sort of identity, and I was really just sort of quite miserable. And I was increasingly, as I was wearing baggier clothes, and I was just sort of hiding myself away. And that's really not the sort of person I am. So I didn't really recognize myself at all. And then so that was the menopause, and then just to double it up, I then got diagnosed with osteoarthritis. My father had it very severely into his 80s, to the point that, he couldn't dress himself, couldn't feed himself and everything. And this vision of, I've always thought I'm going to be somebody, I'm going to be skiing in my 70s and 80s. I'm going to be sailing, doing all these brilliant sailing challenges, doing all of this into my sort of later years. And suddenly I felt that whole thing just gone, completely gone. And I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. And you popped up on Facebook. And it was an accident that I saw you, well, a happy accident, because a friend of mine's an NHS dietitian and she'd
Right.
liked your page. And I'd not seen your page myself. And I thought, oh, well, I trust this friend of mine. And I thought, well, if she's liked your page, I'm going to take a look. And I liked what I saw, because I'd thought about diets, but I don't know. I've got Gilbert syndrome, so I can't fast. A friend of mine said, oh, you should do fasting. I said, I can't not eat. I get ill. So I
Yeah.
just didn't really know what to do. So I came along and sort of started finding out a bit more. And I thought, just maybe you can help people like me. And here I am.
That's so important, Julie, what you said, because there's people, so many people who I tell me every day, they compare themselves to those people who've lost 9 stone. They think, well, my problems are not as severe as that person's problems. For that reason, this isn't that important, or I shouldn't be talking about this. I almost feel guilty about talking about
Yeah,
wanting to lose a half stone or a stone. But the thing is, it's not about the weight, it's about how it's making you feel. And if something is bothering you on a weekly basis, it's something that should be addressed, regardless of what the number is. And you're a prime example of that. And like, where did you notice that bothering you with clothes? Was it when you were getting ready in the morning? Was it when you're going out? Or
yeah, those. But also, I had a big sailing trip coming up. I was doing the Rolex Middle Sea Race, and it was the first big trip since I'd done I don't know if anyone know it. There was a big race called the Clipper Around the World Yacht Race, and I'd done that a few years before. And then the problem is, this specialist equipment is really expensive, and I was thinking none of my sailing clothes are going to fit me.
yeah,
And I think I'm going to be embarrassed, or I'm going to have to go out and buy a whole load more stuff. I'm not going to be fit enough to be able to do what I want to do to participate in the race.
mhm,
That was the thing, and that was coming up in the October. I did think about not getting involved in the program till afterwards, And then I thought, no, I need to do it now. I didn't know whether I'd achieve what I would want to achieve within, I think I had 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so knowing, you know, the sailing holiday and then skiing, you know, nothing was fitting. And I was thinking, oh no. And that was just, you know, a reminder of this position I was in. Mm-hmm. And I needed to do something.
And what have you achieved?
Well, if we start with the clothes, I completely overshot that. So I was a size 12 struggling, and I thought I couldn't bring myself to, and I'd say, sure, lots of people think, oh, I'd love to be a size 12, but I was struggling and I'm thinking I'm going to have to go out and buy 14. So I wanted to get back into size 10. I had all, you know, some of the stuff that was still size 10. And in 8 weeks, in fact, I think it was less than 8 weeks, I did lose a stone. And I was surprised how my body shape changed.
Yeah.
I overshot it. And actually, just before the race, I went and tried on my size 10, thinking, please fit, please fit. Well, they didn't fit. I could pull them down over my hips. So I still had to go out and actually buy some new ones, but I had to buy some size 8s, which I could not believe. Yeah, I couldn't believe. Sailing clothes generally are quite generous, but yeah, but even so, yeah, I was delighted. I've actually now lost 10. Yeah, I've lost 10 kilograms now. So I wanted to lose a stone, which I think is 6.5, something like that. Yeah. But I've actually lost 10, which I would never have believed. And I've lost off my waist, my hips and my thighs, so not my chest. I didn't really sort of measure that. I've lost 35 centimeters. Wow. And again, listening to you saying, no, don't listen to people. Most of my friends and family would have said, Julie, you don't need to lose anything. Yeah. But when I look at my pre-pictures and my pictures now, I know I did need to. I was just on the border of becoming, you know, overweight. I was still within the sort of healthy band, but I was tipping in the wrong way. And it was kept going. It was going in that direction. And that's what I wanted to do. So I stopped the trajectory, lost the weight, lost the inches. And I've got a different goal now. And the funny thing is the program's so fantastic. Been working with my coach Dee, and she's now been saying to me, Julie, we need to stop you losing weight. We need to stop you losing weight, because I'm trying to build my strength. Yes. Which obviously, from an osteoarthritis point of view, critical. I'm trying to build my strength, so build lean muscle, and I'm so proud because you set me a challenge, Alex, and I can now do a chin up. Yeah.
I want to see a video of this, the inner circle. That's incredible.
And a pull-up as well, which I find harder, but I can't believe it because my arthritis is very bad in my hands, wrists, my fingers, and my shoulder. So yeah, I've surprised myself, and that's all thanks to you and your team.
I appreciate that, but it's thanks to you and your hard work. It's your sweat, not ours. So thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. And so many things I want to touch on here. One is that when you have people saying to you, you have no weight to lose, or you don't need to lose weight, again, it can just lead to us. It can lead to us consistently just putting something off and delaying. But like you said, you didn't put it off. You took action. You didn't put it off or delay it. You actually didn't procrastinate. And second, and that is the body mass index has got some limitations, BMI, for people who are severe athletes and are very, very muscular. From the majority of the general public, it actually is a very accurate indicator of whether someone should be trying to maintain a healthy weight or not, or should be trying to lose weight or not. So you said you want to lose a stone. And it's often because either we've had friends telling us we haven't got much to lose, or we think it's not possible to lose more than that. And now you're more athletic. You're stronger, you're doing chin-ups, you're doing pull-ups, which is a whole other level, by the way, Julie, in terms of intensity and difficulty. So serious, well done on that. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thanks. And I was so happy this weekend, back to me, my confidence, because I was losing my confidence, losing my identity, hiding. It was a friend's 50th birthday, and we had a girly brunch, and it was a Spice Girls brunch. And I thought, oh, they'll make me Sporty Spice. I've got lots of sporty gear. No, they made me Ginger Spice. So I was the one that had to wear the Union Jack dress. And I
Yeah.
went out, and the first one I bought was a sort of quite a plain one. And I thought, oh, you know, because I'm still not quite, you know, found my sparkle. And then I thought, no. And I sent it back, and I bought a full sequin one with the red boots, you know, and all that. And I have to say, yeah, I will post that on the Inner Circle as well. But I thought, you know, just last year, there's no way I would have worn that dress. So I felt very proud. I sparkled again.
That's brilliant. Vibrancy. We don't want to be slowing down as we get older. We want to be getting more opportunities, more options. And I've also seen the photograph of you in the red pants as well, the red trousers. You look fantastic, Julie. You look
Thank you.
absolutely fantastic. You know, and I really mean that. And what makes you think this is sustainable? Which is obviously the thing that we keep talking about. What makes you think this is not going to be temporary now?
Yeah, I think I said at the beginning I've never been on a diet. I've still never been on a diet. So it's not something that I feel that I've just done for a period of time, you know, to achieve a goal and then that's it. It's not like one of my adventures where you go somewhere and do some exciting and you come back and think, right, well, what's next? You know, it's been a number of small things, and importantly, those things that are relevant for me. I've not picked up on everything because there are some things that I've tried that just don't quite work, but there's been plenty of other things that have worked. So it feels very much like this is my program, my journey. These are things that I've really committed to. It doesn't mean I won't still try some new things and everything. And I think for me as well, I love being part. I'm a very independent person, but I like being part of a community. Yeah. So I also know that I've got a community that I feel supported by, but I also feel, you know, a responsibility to as well. You know, if I did fall off and fall away, then I know, you know, that you'd all be there. But you know, yeah, no, I'm not going to let myself down. I'm not going to let anybody else down. So this is it. Yeah, and if it was going to come back on, it would have come back on in the last few months once I reached, you know, I thought, wonder if I could hit 10 kilograms. And I was quite surprised. And that was with, you know, the last few was relatively, I was quite surprised by that. But if it was going to come back on, I think it would have done by now. But I've changed so many habits that, you know, but never say never. So I do need to keep working at it. I know that I'm not going to get complacent.
That's right. Keep learning. Keep learning. You can't become complacent. You can't become complacent. You can't go backwards then. Something you said again that was really amazing there, Julie, is you mentioned about it being your responsibility as well in terms of the tribe, in terms of the social circle. And I want people to look at their ability of posting in the Inner Circle as, yes, their responsibility, but also to look at it differently. If I'm having a tough day, and I keep that to myself, I'm not helping myself or anyone. If I'm having a tough day and I share that on the Inner Circle and I share a possible solution, and there's somebody else out there, you know, it's why I think having that authenticity and open and honesty in the Inner Circle is so important. And you guys have made that nobody else, you know. And what would you say to someone who's struggling in terms of, well, investing in themselves or also prioritizing themselves? Actually, that's a really common one. People struggle to put themselves first.
Yeah. Well, building on what you were saying earlier, I would go even further and say,
what would you say to someone?
Yeah, I'd say you have to be selfish. We see being selfish as a negative thing, but I'd say we all have to be selfish. We have to look after. Being selfish just means you put yourself first. You have to put yourself first if you're then going to be able to look after other people. So I'd say you're worth it. You get one life. Can you hear me?
I certainly can. And we don't get, there's a bit of a delay on the line, I think. Can you hear me okay? No, still here. I love what you said, Julie, and I agree with that. We only get one life. It's not a rehearsal. And people are watching, grandkids, children, family, friends. And it's better to be a role model than a warning sign. And this brings me on to the last point on how we can actually improve self-belief. And also, Julie, before I mention it, there are so many comments here. There's 1,230 comments. So take your time, but try and go through a few of them if you can. And just so many messages here, by the way, from some incredible people who are just saying, like, you're an inspiration, you're incredible. Read them. Please go back and read them. And
I will. Thank you.
you're welcome. And to everybody else watching this, the last thing in terms of increasing self-belief, which again builds right on what you just said, Julie, and that is number 7, self-care. If we don't have self-care, then we don't have many things. And I'm a huge believer in this. Self-care, self-prioritization, whether it is having a hot bath or 2 showers, whether it is prioritizing yourself. I think self-development, self-care never depreciates. It adds more value over time. And I want to thank you, Judy, for coming on. Obviously, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you in person. I'm hoping that won't be the last time it happens. I will look forward to wearing the Union, not wearing, Jesus, Alex, seeing the Union Jack dress.
I wear it to Tough Mudder.
Oh, digging a hole here for myself, over committing to something. No, to seeing you in the Union Jack dress, not me wearing it. Oh my God, what have I started? So I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank everybody else as well for coming here, showing up every single Monday. Please comment your takeaways below. And to everyone, thank you, especially you, Julie. Huge thank you for what you've done coming on. And bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Cheers, Julie. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.